We all make mistakes. We've all said things we wish we hadn't, done things we long to undo. And yet, if you look back honestly, you will see that at that time, with the consciousness you carried, you were doing the best you could. It is a strange paradox of life. We stand here now, armed with new awareness, and look back at the person we once were as though they should have known what we know now, but they could not have. That earlier self was moving through life with the limited tools, the unpolished clarity, the fragments of understanding that were available in that moment. To condemn yourself for what you did not yet know is like scolding a child for failing to solve an equation in calculus before they've even learned numbers. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Every stumble, every error, every rash word you now regret was not a crime against existence, but a movement of the unconscious, life itself attempting to become conscious through you. Your mistakes were not failures but experiments, fumbling steps on the path of individuation, the long journey of becoming who you truly are. Forgiveness begins here, not with a grand moral effort, but with the humble recognition that you were always doing your best, even when your best was clumsy, blind, or confused. To see this is to soften. To soften is to begin to forgive. Forgiving yourself does not mean erasing the past or pretending it never happened. It means seeing it clearly for what it was, an experiment in being alive. Every choice, every blunder, every wound you inflicted or endured was part of the great curriculum of existence. Jung taught that the psyche seeks wholeness, not perfection, and wholeness requires shadow as much as light. Your errors were the shadow's attempt to speak, to break through into awareness. To carry them as permanent guilt is to mistake the message for a sentence. The trouble is, most of us drag our mistakes behind us like stones in a sack. We replay old scenes, rehearsing regrets, wishing we could edit the script. But the past is finished. It exists now only as memory, as illusion sustained by the mind. To keep punishing yourself is to argue with what no longer exists. Learning is alive. It transforms. Condemnation is dead weight. It chains you to a version of yourself that no longer exists. Jung knew this well. He spoke of how we often identify with the mask, the persona, forgetting that we are always in motion, always evolving. Compassion for yourself means laying down the heavy sack. You are no longer the one who stumbled. You are the one who learned. To see this is to take your first step into freedom, and what is true for yourself is true for others. When a person acts in a way you call wrong, they are not choosing freely from infinite options with perfect clarity. They are acting from the limits of their awareness, from wounds, from the unconscious patterns shaping them. If someone speaks in bitterness, it is because bitterness has taken root in the soil of their life, often inherited, often invisible. They are not free. They are driven by forces beneath their awareness. Jung called this projection. We hurl our inner pain outward without knowing it belongs to us. To condemn such a person outright is to forget that they are already imprisoned by their own suffering. This does not mean you excuse cruelty or accept abuse. It means you see the human being beneath the behavior, the wounded child beneath the anger, the unconscious shadow beneath the mask. And when you see this, even if you must walk away, you do not need to carry hatred in your heart. That is the beginning of forgiving the world. Judgment is easy. It costs nothing. It allows us to feel superior for a fleeting moment. But understanding, that is rare. Understanding demands imagination, empathy, and the willingness to pause before reacting. This is what Jung meant by the deeper intelligence of the soul, not the cleverness of solving puzzles, but the wisdom of feeling into another life as if it were your own, to see yourself in another, and another in yourself. Their anger is your anger in another form, their confusion once yours, their blindness a reflection of the blindness you once stumbled through. And here lies the subtle paradox. Forgiveness is not a moral duty. It is not imposed from outside. It becomes a natural response once you see deeply enough. When you understand, you realize there was never truly anything to forgive. There was only pain to be understood. Hurt people hurt people. Pain reproduces itself like a contagion, passed from one generation to the next, unless someone awakens and refuses to continue the cycle. Jung believed what is unhealed in the parents is carried by the children. A wound ignored does not disappear, it is inherited. If we do not awaken, if we do not forgive, we simply hand the poison forward. Forgiveness is the refusal to play that game. It is the decision to stop the contagion. Not because the other deserves it, but because you no longer wish to be bound by it. In that sense, forgiveness is not about them at all. It is about reclaiming your freedom. You become the break in the chain, the one who says, "This ends here." And forgiveness is often silent. It does not always mean reconciliation. You may forgive someone and still never walk beside them again. That is perfectly so. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is not foolish trust. It is the release of resentment. Resentment burns only the one who clings to it. To keep hatred alive is to smolder in your own fire. To forgive is not weakness. It is clarity. It is to see that holding on binds you to the very thing you long to be free of. By letting go, you release both them and yourself. And strangely, when you release the demand that others must change, sometimes they do. But even if they never change, you are no longer bound to their story. That is the quiet power of forgiveness. Most people confuse cleverness with intelligence. Cleverness calculates, manipulates, wins arguments. But the highest intelligence is in the heart. The intelligence that imagines another's life as if it were your own. Empathy is the art of slipping into another's skin, of tasting life from their point of view. Logic will always divide, right or wrong, guilty or innocent. But empathy asks, what pain gave rise to this? What blindness shaped this choice? This is not indulgence. It is not excusing harm. It is reality seen in depth. No one wakes and says, "Today I will be bitter. Today I will be cruel. Today I will be blind." They arrive there through causes stretching back further than even they can trace. To grasp this is to begin to see the web. And once you see the web, hatred dissolves, for you realize there is no separate other. Their suffering is your suffering in another form. Their blindness is life itself struggling toward awareness. Jung spoke of the self as the greater wholeness of which we are but fragments. When you understand this, forgiveness ceases to be an effort. Compassion flows like breath. You forgive, not because you must, but because you see. Because you understand there is no separate enemy to hate. Only life stumbling into consciousness. Only the psyche seeking wholeness through trial and error. And in this vision, forgiveness is no longer something you do. It happens of itself, like light dissolving shadow.